Welcome to the Hearth. We are a community that is friendly and fun, where we explore earliest imprints, prenatal and perinatal somatic practices, and people who practice and make a difference in our field. So today our topic is talking about what is pre and perinatal somatics. So the Hearth and the things that we're doing in the Hearth are really introducing. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about it, just in case people didn't know or had their own idea about it. And we're discovering that the three of us have different ideas about it, but similar.
I think it's a great question to begin with, Kate, just because there has been a lot around pre and perinatal psychology, and there's a question about what makes pre and perinatal somatics. What does that add to the conversation in some ways? And one thing we were just talking about is that somatics comes from the word soma, and soma is Sanskrit, from what I believe is Sanskrit for sacred body. And so there's something about how much our bodies are continuously communicating and expressing something about our experiences, and how do we start to listen to them and really meet that, or what our body is needing, or listening to what our body is expressing. And one of the things that happens with somatics is how it often is influenced by our history. And so that brings in the pre and perinatal aspect of it, because there's so much in our history where that's where things actually begin, and how this is where I'm not remembering exactly what I had said before, but a lot of the ruptures, a lot of the trauma that's in our history actually happened in relationship. And so how do we bring that in to our awareness, and in relationship repair some of those experiences, or meet them in a different way so that we can differentiate from them and discover what is possible today. So that's what I have to say right now.
Well, I like what you said, Eileen. So if you could, I think that I'd like to hear what you said again.
Yeah. So first of all, as I was listening to you, Kristin, I really felt at the center of this is the very natural impulse, the very natural drive in us to connect with each other. Mm-hmm. That truly understood human beings aren't individual entities, but actually the group is the smallest unit of human beings. And so, especially in this technological age where there's a lot of communication happening with machines, there's just this wonderful opportunity to come back to the humanness, and not only the words, but also what is the language of the body? How is it that we connect with each other in nonverbal ways, both in communicating to somebody, but also how do we receive somebody else? How do we feel them on many different levels to connect with them? And so pre and perinatal somatic is discovering that which we already know, learning different principles and skills that can return us to that innate wisdom and knowledge that we have about connecting with ourselves and others. And again, as Kristin was saying, to understand what interrupted us in staying connected with that as we came in, were conceived, gestated in our mothers, were born, and then we were met as infants and then children. So again, as Kristin was saying, the pre and perinatal experiences really shape how we communicate with each other. And in the Hearth, really what our intention is to really reveal that which is natural to us.
To really reconnect what was already there, but somewhat dampened or hurt or interrupted, disconnected. That's what I'm hearing from both of you, that there's a natural pattern that's there in our humanness. And there's a way that in the pre-perinatal realm, it's an implicit realm. It's in the body. It's somatic. It's sensation. It's perception from sensation. One of the things that we talk about babies is that they're sentient. So what does that mean? They're sensory and perceptive. John Chitty used to say they're super sentient. Super. So really helping people find that part of themselves again and determine if they're still alive, these early layers that have been somehow disrupted, and settling them, finding ways to integrate them. And it starts preconception. And one of the things I tell my students and what I teach is that we teach is that we speak in a pattern language. It's a somatic pattern language. It's posture, it's sensation, it's metaphor, how we speak. It's a lot. It's like we're telling our story, and it's in our physiology. So it's not, when we talk about the pre-perinatal psychology, it's not so cognitive as it is something that comes from the body. And we're taught and we learn so many different patterns from so many layers of our being. And it's true, we always are in relationship. We're in relationship with our parent and our environment and the things that happen to us there.
I love what you're saying, Kate. There's something about what PPN Somatics really supports is connecting to the health that is within each of us from the very beginning. That includes the health that are in our compensation patterns and how we navigate or orient to the world. And so part of what we do is really about bringing recognition to those parts, bring our awareness to it so that we can appreciate that, differentiate the ones that might not be happening now, but where the patterns began really early on, and open ourselves up to more choice and more options that are available to us now that might not have been there when we were very young.
Yeah. For the working with the adults, it's like when I hear you talk, Kristin, I am reminded, and also Eileen, you've reminded me too many times that we have adult consciousness when we're working, and so we can help people remember and put words to it, and somehow in that process, by being with it as practitioners, but also just as people, helping them integrate and name and come to it from in a different way. The power of choice, feeling that, and then being able to have a little more consciousness from the adult space as well as integration from the early space.
Yeah, and there's something to know, and it looks like you wanted to also add something there, Eileen, but there's something to, in terms of PPN Somatics, it is about working from a wide range of people, of working with couples who are in the preconception phase and looking at planning and having children, to working with newborns in what they were just experienced of coming into, being born into the world, as well as at any age of children and their families, to adults and who are still navigating. I know myself still navigating some things that really started from a very young age. And how do I acknowledge the brilliance of needing to work in that way or navigate the world in that way, but also opening up to different options, because I am an adult and have more tools available to me, or different support, or different things of that nature. So, yeah.
Well, actually, that was a perfect segue into what I was going to say, because part of PPN Somatics is discovering that which happened to us when we were small as adults, but then there's the opportunity to do it differently for the generations that follow. So, Kristin, you were talking about working with adults and then also families with children and infants and even preconception. And when we do that work at that point, then the generations that to come, babies and children, benefit, and we're able to understand what happened to us and give them something different than what we received. So for me, it's not only how do we discover the traumatic events that affected us and may have interrupted us, but also in that understanding, how do we support our own children, our clients, our teachers, our students. Just having that understanding can help do something different and support the generations to come.
So it's learnable. It's there's skills and tools. There's practices. And I feel like the practice is just as important as the tools and skills that you can learn. And any information is good too. But really feeling it in your body and then finding those ways to, it's a restorative practice, really, for me. Restoring us to ourselves, finding out who we are without the burdens of the layers of the challenges, and or with integration of them, sometimes makes our lives more beautiful. And I also feel like working with these early layers, it brings us to our truer nature. And so it can be very illuminating, and yeah, just you find the beauty for me. I mean, that's why I do it. The beauty of our humanness. It's very enriching. I can feel my body starting to really warm up just saying that. Especially in my heart.
You know, as you're saying that, Kate, because you're talking about really the practical, just the very accessible quality of the skills and practices. And what I really appreciate about this work and being able to work with the principles and the different skills I've learned, the different awarenesses and understandings that I have learned, is that I meet everybody, whether they're in utero, whether they're a little one, whether they're an adult, with much more insight and understanding and empathy with each person that I meet.
That feels like enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
That's
both.
great.
You have been listening to The Hearth. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.